Raider Nation, welcome back for another show, man. We've got a great one lined up for you. A little bit different today, but we're going to talk about all things Raiders. Before we get started, though, if you guys have not yet, smash the like button, shoot this video up the algorithm. Help us help you, and let's just make this a better experience for the both of us. And the more people that tune in, the better it is for all of us. So if you haven't, smash the like button, smash the subscribe button on Real Raider Ray and Pharaoh NFL. We alternate shows every single week. Make sure you don't miss out on all your Raiders content coming in the near future. With that being said, man, let's just jump straight into it tonight. Welcome, my co-host Pharaoh NFL.
Hey,
What's going on?
man, another edition, man. Another collab, man. And we're gonna have some news soon. Get ready for it. But for right now, man, me and Ray are ready to talk Raider football. And we got some news. We got some stuff to talk about today. And I'm so excited to talk about it. But make sure, like Ray said, to make sure to hit that like button if you haven't subscribed. Also hit the subscribe button. And also go to my channel as well, because we switch off every week. So you want to make sure you subscribe on my channel. So then you'll get every time we go live, you always be informed. But yeah, man, I'm excited to talk Raider football, man. Some news to
Yeah,
talk
well,
about.
let's just jump straight into it because the Raiders have made some moves. So going over to the new practice squad, we have a visual. We're going to pull it up here. The Raiders have brought back these guys who are currently on the 90-man roster. We've got David Ngoa, our Nigerian transfer. We've got Matthew Butler, who made it, who we kind of talked about, hey, is he going to be a roster cut type of guy?
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to see him be able to make it back to the practice squad, hopefully earn his way back up into that starting rotation.
Mm-hmm.
McClinton Curtis got a ton of hype, right? A lot of people were in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
I did have Jordan Meredith over him based off of what I've seen in the preseason. Everybody that follows our channel kind of knows that. But McClinton Curtis, probably a guard of the future, to be honest with you. He has a ton of potential,
Yeah.
a ton of raw power. So that's exciting. Cole Fotheringham, he's back in the tight end room. That was intriguing for me to see. He had a great preseason. I'm sure you feel the same way about that. And then just kind of going down the roster, Sam Webb, it's nice to have him back. Glad nobody scooped him up. Keep him in the building. He's been in the system for a while. Tyler Hall, same thing. Kind of like that Amik Robertson. You moved on from Duke Shelley. You still got Tyler Hall in the practice squad who showed up last year and contributed for you. So
Mm-hmm.
overall, I like the practice squad, but there's also some new additions.
Yeah, and there's a little slight update. As you can see, you see a few of the players. Obviously, the majority of players that are on this list are on the practice squad, but there has since been an update. So let me go ahead and share this instead. And it says here that wide receiver Marquez Callaway was added, linebacker Isaac Darkangelo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, guard Vitali German or German, and Janarius Robinson were added to the practice squad as well. So 4 players minus 1, so pretty much 3 more players are added to the practice squad. Devin Ross has been released. What do you think about the new additions?
Overall, the biggest thing that stands out to me is the corresponding move of getting rid of Devin Ross, and we kind of swap players here with the Denver Broncos. So Marquez Callaway is coming over from Denver. He did get cut. Um, this is a guy who's 6'2", 204 pounds. He's had success in the league. He's had 1,000-yard season before. I believe in 2021, he had about 700 yards, 4 touchdowns. But to have a guy with the caliber and the talent that he possesses on your practice squad is pretty impressive. Now, obviously, he got cut from Denver. That's a little bit of alarming. They have some issues at the wide receiver position. They're going to be out with Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick, they lost for, I believe, the season. If not the season, then for quite some time. So they had a need at wide receiver, and to see him get cut is a little bit alarming. But hey, a change of scenery, the right fit, all those things can benefit a guy like Marquez Callaway. And for him to have history in the NFL of success, I'm all for it. We just kind of swap players with the Denver Broncos, Philip Dorsett for Marquez Callaway.
Well, did Dorsett? Didn't he go to Seattle? I think Seattle picked him up.
No, Philip Dorsett went to Denver.
He went to Denver. I thought he went to Seattle. I know our guy Drake Thomas, linebacker.
Drake Thomas went to Seattle.
He ended up going to Seattle. I know Raider Nation definitely liked that linebacker. Wanted him to make the team, but no one drafted free agents made the team. So it was sometimes when players at this time of year, when the Raiders cut players and they try to put them in a practice squad to develop them, it's kind of a risk. It's a little of a gamble. You can see, like with Dalton Wagner, for example, they put him on IR. I'm sure he probably could have came back,
Oh yeah.
but they're like, you know what? Let's have you stay on the roster, have you get stronger, work on your game and get better, stay another year in the system, and then you come back with another offseason and make the team next year or give you a good chance to make the team. So Drake Thomas is probably a guy that they're high on, but sometimes it doesn't work in your favor when you're trying to get to that 53-man roster because it is tough because it's a lot of players you got to get through to get to the right amount of players on the team.
And Dalton Wagner is a fun one. Next year, he's probably going to be competing for a right tackle spot for sure. Like,
Wow. Okay.
I think that they really do have their eyes set on, man, let's just take this off season. And they might even ask him to trim down a little bit. I don't know. So they have a vision and a plan for him, I think. And I think he showed enough this preseason that they've got him in the long-term scope here.
Yeah.
So that's intriguing. I like Dalton Wagner. Again, Marquez Callaway, Philip Dorsett. This kind of feels like a swap of information, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Denver picks up Philip Dorsett. Obviously, Raiders in a corresponding move pick up a wide receiver as well from the Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
Just might be a little bit of week one preparation, terminology, things to look for.
That's true. That's true.
So that's just something to look out for. This is a business at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And any type of competitive edge you can get, you're going to take it. So yeah, this just looks like an exchange of information to me, but
Oh
we'll
yeah,
see.
100%. They do this all the time. There's always a former player. Surprisingly, it's a coincidence they get picked up that same week that they play them.
Exactly.
And it is what it is. That the teams are gonna do this. The Raiders are gonna do this, which is actually a very good point because we end up picking Marquez Callaway and he gets picked up. Now he's a speedster, right?
Yeah, but he's still got he's got a bigger frame though too. So
okay,
he has the ability for breakaway speed, but
right.
So yeah, he's a nice blend. If I'm being honest with you, he's a nice possession receiver. Just think of a slightly smaller, faster Cam Sims, in my opinion. So
Interesting.
just a little bit more of an ability to be an explosive playmaker,
Right.
with a little bit more history in the league. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. If he can find a home here and not be forced or pressured to go in there and start right away,
Yeah.
and maybe just develop and turn some heads on the practice squad, then hey, it's a win for us.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's a possibility that the Raiders can really actually like him, but I'm leaning towards the fact that okay,
This is information.
yeah, they're getting ready for Denver right now,
Yeah.
and he was just with the team. He got waived, which is not a good sign. Denver waiving a wide receiver when they got injuries over there. They had players going on IR, so for him to get waived, they're like, there's better options. It's kind of like us. I don't know if that's a sign to him as a player, but maybe they like what they have on their roster. But I think it's like I said, I think it has more to do with, like you said, exchange of information. They're trying to figure out, like, get ready for Denver and figure out what they've been doing in preseason and types of looks and formations that Sean Payton has been doing. Because this is that first game, anything can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Anything can happen, especially a first-year head coach.
100%. And what makes it even more alarming a little bit as far as a player aspect is this is a coach who had history with you in New Orleans. This is the coach that you had success with in his system. And he's just ready to move on from you like that. It's just, I don't know, man. Like, as far as a player standpoint, who knows where he's at? But let's just get ready for week one and let's get any type of understanding. Like you said, anything can happen week one. So any type of information based off of formation schemes, what are you doing on third down? What were you guys running? Red zone. It's just, this is the game. So that's what it is. Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah, but overall, I like some of the players that came back. Isaac Rochelle, he made some plays in the preseason. He's a veteran. He's been around for a few years, but I think that was a nice little comeback pickup. Netane Moody.
Yep.
He didn't make the roster, but they brought him back. I like that as well. I'm sure they like the player. And you never know. Like, hey, the 17 game season plus including the playoffs is a long season. Players get hurt, so if you can keep some players in the practice squad, and you never know when that time comes up where they got to call them up. Matthew Butler, not a good sign. A guy that was drafted in the fifth round last year. He didn't make the team, but the Raiders are still interested in having him around. So it's not a situation where they've completely given up, even though, like, man, cutting a fifth round pick a year later after drafting him is not a good sign. It's not a good look, in my opinion. But hey, at the same time, they still have him in the practice squad. So we'll see how everything shakes out. I think Sincere McCormick. We haven't really talked too much about Sincere McCormick. Like, what are your thoughts of Sincere watching him in the preseason? And I know he didn't make the team, but at this point, but what are your thoughts on him?
He had a lot of build up going into this preseason. He
Yeah,
missed all of last year with a knee injury.
yeah,
And look, coming back a year off of a significant injury like that, it's always tough, and especially that you got to think this is his first reps in live action in the NFL. So it's an adjustment, and I think the practice squad for now is the best place for Sincere. I don't think he's quite there yet. But at the same time, you know how I feel about this running back room outside of Josh Jacobs. Like
yeah.
nothing stands out to me. There's
No,
not like a young up and coming back where I'm like, yeah, this is going to be the guy that you got to keep an eye out on. I don't think the Raiders have that on their roster, which is why I was like I wish they would have kept Damian Williams, to be honest, or at least
yeah.
bring him back
That's why you have to pay. Not to cut you off, but that's why you have to pay a Josh Jacobs, and
100%.
like you got to give him a solid contract. I think if he gives you another year of, I'd rather him get signed now. But then if let's say he gives you another year where he's super productive, I'm sure the ball's going to be going through him. They're going to be really involved in the run game with him. You're going to have to, like, there's no way.
Yeah,
How do you go in next year with Zamir White as your starting running back? I
you don't.
understand.
You don't.
Yeah, yeah. And because if Josh Jacobs, let's say, gets hurt or for whatever reason they move on, then the passing game becomes more of a priority. And I think, it's going to be tough when, majority of like Jimmy G's career, he's had a run game. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I don't know if he's that type of quarterback where you want to have him spread out and, like, because he's not a guy that he can hang in there. I don't want to say hang in there stay tough in the pocket. I mean more like,
I
if I
don't want to. I don't want him in gun for 35 passes a game.
exactly,
That's not what I want.
especially with a guy that he has an injury history. You want to
Right.
protect him, and the best way to protect a quarterback sometimes is that run game. So, we'll see how it shakes out with Josh Jacobs. But hey, I think that's a nice little segue.
Yeah, it is, and I think that Josh Jacobs as well. Kind of him sitting out of this preseason to kind of let the Raiders look at what they have in that running back room.
Mm-hmm.
It. I will say this was the one W take that he had because all the other running backs, we kind of alluded to that on previous shows, they just kind of folded and signed with their teams and
Mm-hmm.
and took less money, right? And Josh Jacobs was that one guy who kind of stood away from the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think them seeing what they had in preseason, they're like, all right, it's pretty evident. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
nobody's even close. They're not going to come close to replicating anything that Josh does.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like right now it's a perfect fit. They don't have to sign. Uh, it's not like we're paying Jimmy like crazy amount of money, right?
Mhm.
He's probably getting paid the least amount compared to other starting QBs. So you can actually give maybe Josh Jacobs a little bit more than you would if you had like a franchise QB. And then think about it. Anybody that's coming after Jimmy G, we know it's going to be like a young QB, and he's going to be on a cheap contract. So you can afford to give Josh Jacobs what he wants. He's still like what 25, 26.
Yep.
Give him a 2-year deal, 3-year deal. Boom. But it's just the amount of money yearly. I think that's your biggest issue. You're not going to be, you know,
But here's the thing, specifically when Jimmy G is your quarterback, you almost have to pay Josh because this is how Jimmy G's offenses are able to thrive. So say we went into the season and Josh was like, "Yo, I'm out," and we don't pay him the money, the $12 million. Look, this offense could look a lot different than what it does now with number 8 back there.
yeah,
So I'm okay with it. 12 million. It's nothing crazy away from the franchise tag. I'm happy to have him back. I'm happy to see him in a uniform. It just feels natural. I always preached, even last season, it's not my money. I'm not going to get in other people's pockets, but I'll give my opinion when it's maybe not
yeah,
the right move. This was the right move. So it's nice to have Josh back. It feels good. And speaking of having Josh back, we had Josh Jacobs sighting for the first time, and he had his first press conference. And we've got a little bit of audio. I thought that there's a few questions asked that were actually really good. So we're going to pick up with Vinny Bonsignor asking Josh Jacobs a question that me and Farrell raised of, hey, look, when you spend time away and you go through contract disputes and it's at times the temperature in the room wasn't always positive, right? Josh would go to social media. Dave Z would be saying one thing and Josh Jacobs is saying another thing on his platforms.
Mm-hmm.
It was just an awkward situation, right? So how does Josh Jacobs feel about what the Raiders front office now moving forward?
You're asking me if how he feels about the Raiders
No,
right now?
I was just segueing into Vinny
The
Bonsignor. Yeah.
okay. Hold on a second.
How do you kind of separate, the business from the professional and the personal? And you feel like the Raiders did an okay job in making this all kind of about business and understanding that there were no hard feelings or anything like that involved in the negotiations?
I mean, shit, we here. Shit, I mean, I feel like, we made it happen. So it ain't no hard feelings now. I mean, I feel like I said, we made it happen. So it's a clean slate with me. It was never like really just like, no hate on each side. I understood it. But at the same time, I understood my value too. So it was just about meeting in the middle.
Josh, I know one of the things you've talked about another.
So he it sounded like he didn't really feel like he had any animosity. I don't think he does. I think at the end of the day, he wants to play for the Raiders. Like, he was drafted by the team. I think he has a Raider tattoo along with, Maxx Crosby, and then, former Raider, not Artie Key, but Clean Farrell. I think they got a tattoo as well. So they love the Raiders, this team that they drafted them. I don't think you have any issues. I think the business side can get ugly at times when you're trying to get what you feel like you need to get paid, especially at Josh Jacobs after a year of literally led the league in rushing. The guy had countless touchdowns in the red zone, and he could make an argument where he felt like he was the go-to guy on offense for the last 3-4 years for the Raiders.
100%.
Even if you look at that playoff run, one of the biggest reasons why we went to the playoffs, obviously, Derek Carr made some key plays down the stretch, but he didn't play great. He didn't play amazing. They were depending on Josh Jacobs to get it done in the run game. And I think he knows that, and he's been consistent. There's been a little bit of injury, and I know there's some question like, can he continue this year as well? But I think hopefully we can bring him back for a long-term deal.
Yeah, 100%. And on top of that, the Raiders have made a lot of moves right around him this offseason, something that he hasn't been able to be a part of. So the question was raised and asked about what looks different about this team right off the bat. And I thought that Josh Jacobs had a good response.
Hold on one second.
And try to put it together.
Last one, Vinny. Last question.
Josh, I know that that's going to take time, but from afar, from your vantage point, seeing some of the moves that the Raiders made, not just offensively but defensively through their draft and free agency, what did you like about what they did? And at first glimpse today, did you see some differences between this year and last year?
Yeah, man, we got a lot faster. I definitely seen that. We definitely got a lot faster. We got a lot of guys that love the game. And we got a lot of guys with high IQs. And that's just the first thing I've noticed. I think I seen F make a play today. I was like, damn, he got from one side of the field to the other and, made a play that we thought was a touchdown. So, I mean, just to be able to see that, and, obviously, Maxx being the leader that he is on that defense, to see him take another leap, I mean, it's just been crazy to me. It's got me really excited for the season.
All right. Thanks,
man.
That's big. That's big because when you think about the offense last season, the Raiders had almost no vertical speed. The vertical threat was Devontae. And let's just not act like Devontae is some crazy burner out there. It's just his route running and his ability to separate. He still made guys look slow just off of his skill and his technique alone. But when you have a real offensive threat that can stretch defenses vertically, on top of being able to move east and west, which we see the modern NFL start to do now, is make everybody cover every single blade of grass, left to right, vertically down the field. Raiders didn't have that last season. So you add a Carter, you have a Tucker who actually switches number. It wasn't 14, it's to number 11 now. So Trey Tucker's number 11. So to get another burner to stretch the field vertically that way. It's just going to unlock things for Josh, lighting up those boxes a little bit. You already have to cover the talent. We kind of talked about it last year with Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Devontae, is you have to allocate defenses into all those coverages. And this year it's going to be a little bit different because now not only do you have the talent on paper to be amazing route runners, you have possession guys and a Michael Mayer. You've got DeAndre Carter. You've got the Trey Tuckers. You can move the ball in any direction that you want, especially vertically. You can take those shots this year. So overall, I think it's a great thing to finally see some speed back on the Raiders offense.
He also touched on this just overall team speed. He talked about the defense. He was talking about Marcus Epps making a play back there. That's a great sign. I mean, I think the Raiders did make it a priority to get faster. And for him to, who missed all of the offseason to come back, it's going to be real dramatic for him because he hasn't been with the team since last year. So he can see the differences. So like him saying this, it's very interesting. Obviously we see it. We're watching, we're keeping tabs on the team, but him, the last time he's with the team was last year's roster. And now he's with the team this year, which, obviously there's new players, and I think it's kind of big that we got faster as a team. For him to say that defensively is going to be key. It's going to be.
That's the big part, right?
Yeah.
Is the fact that he even brought up the defense.
Yeah.
Like he could have stuck completely offensively and that would have made sense. But he made sure to make the point, like, hey, defensively, we look different. And the fact that he alludes to Maxx taking another step, like it's got to be evident, right? That he just says, hey, right off the bat, I noticed Maxx is taking another step. Like for us Raider fans, like, what does that even look like? Is that like defensive player of the year kind of talk? Is that?
I think so.
You think so?
I think he's going to be right there. I think he felt like he was slighted last year. I believe he wasn't named for All Pro, or it was one of the accolades that players get at the end of the year. And I felt like Maxx deserved it. I think he was one of the best players at his position. But, the national media has their guys, and, Maxx is not on a good team last year, 6-10, and he felt like he probably got slighted. I remember on social media, he kind of mentioned that, and I think, look, he even mentioned like he took 1 month break after the season, and he's been like 100 miles per hour, getting ready for this season. So he's definitely a defensive player of the year candidate for sure.
Josh McDaniels said something that was interesting in his interview too with Busting with the Boys that we didn't get to on the last show, but
yeah,
he made a reference of coaching Maxx Crosby and what it's kind of like, and how, if anything, he has to pull Maxx Crosby back. That he was talking about joint practices, and there's a line, right? There's a line that you go over where it's too much and it's not productive. There's a line to where it's healthy and good, and that's where you want to kind of straddle the fence. And when you're behind the line, you're kind of getting beat up out there. He says Maxx is the kind of guy you always have to kind of pull back to that center line. But he said something. He was like, look, as a coach, I'm not going to limit Maxx. I'm going to let Maxx play free this year. And he just compared it to having a dog on a chain, and that he's just going to take the dog off the chain. And it's just like the verbiage that he was using and the terminology. It was just like, it gives you this visual of Maxx, right? Of just, he's going to be able to play free. And all the production that you get to see this year is Maxx Crosby coming into his own element, Maxx stepping into that player that Raider Nation has seen him to be, right? Developing into, but now on a national stage.
Right.
The world's going to get introduced to Maxx Crosby for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, man, hearing him say that's a really good sign. But it's also pretty much stating that, at the end of the day, like, Maxx is in his prime. He's the leader, one of the leaders on his team, if not the face of the Raiders right now. Him, Maxx, some people want to throw in Devontae, but Maxx was drafted by the Raiders.
Yeah.
He's embraced the Raiders, the Raider Nation. He's embraced the whole culture. And I think him saying that, tells you a lot about Maxx Crosby as a leader, but as a player too. Like they recognize the talent, and they're going to try every way possible to let this guy play his game. And the only way he knows how to play is 100 miles per hour, So it's going to be Maxx Crosby obviously is going to be one of the players that we're always going to look forward to watch, because is this going to be a year where he has how many sacks? You know what I mean? It's going to be a year where he takes that defense, leader of the defense, takes it to another level. Hopefully we're going to see some improvement from that defensive side of the ball, and that's going to be a good sign for the Raiders season this year.
So I'm gonna transition to a segment, and this is gonna be different, right? You know, all around you could probably get this is the spot right before the 2023 season. What are your season predictions? What is the records? What is this and that? But I want to kind of go deeper than that. I don't want to talk about predictions of records because everybody is pretty much in the same ballpark. You hear the same answers pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And so I raised the question, and I just wanted to kind of throw it on you. Where do you stand with the vision of the Las Vegas Raiders? Not just this season, but broad. Good or bad, where do you stand with the direction that we're headed as an organization? Are you happy with it? Not? Kind of dive in and kind of give me your opinion on how you feel about us.
I feel like we're headed in the right direction. You know what I mean? It's still early. I mean, this is the second year for GM Ziegler and his front office, and obviously Josh McDaniels, but they seem to be saying all the right things. They're good at saying all the right things, but they seem like they have a good control of what's going on. We're not hearing anything about, think about it. The previous regime with Gruden and Mike Mayock, it was kind of dysfunctional.
Right.
And I think Mark Davis made it a point to make sure that the head coach and GM relationship was on point. And I think, and making sure they had the responsibilities. And you even it's been a while, but since their intro press conference when Josh McDaniels first got hired, you could hear him say that the reason why he wants to work with Dave Ziegler is because it's a guy that he trusts. But at the end of the day, because obviously the beat writers and everybody gonna ask like, oh, are you gonna be making the decisions based off what happened before with John Gruden? But he made it clear that, hey, no, Ziegler is gonna be the guy. It's a guy that we trust to make the right decisions. And I think that's a good sign. You got to delegate responsibilities and have people focus on certain areas. And I think that's a sign of, to me, a great way to be a successful football team. When you see all the best football teams, you see the head coach, you see the defense coordinator. Everybody has their responsibilities, from the GM, president of football operations. Everybody has their responsibilities. When you try to put everything in one person, aka Al Davis, respect to him, but you see how dysfunctional that can be. But I think with the Raiders now, I think they're trending in the right direction. I didn't like that their 2 D tackles they drafted last year got cut a year after, but that was a tough draft, man. The first pick was in the 3rd round. That's tough. It's tough to draft well. And we talked about Zamir White. They drafted Zamir White to be a starting running back. You know what I mean? They didn't draft him to be a backup for Josh Jacobs. They drafted him to replace Josh Jacobs, and he does not look like a replacement for Josh Jacobs. He just looks like a serviceable running back, which is okay. But the expectations, and I understand you have the expectations as well. You expected him to be a guy that you could possibly see replace Josh Jacobs, and we don't want that to happen.
That's not close.
Yeah, it's not close at all. But overall, I think we're going in the right direction. I think there's another offseason. I want to see another offseason of the right moves, the right picks, the right pickups, and I'm going to be feeling way better than I feel right now. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about the team.
Yeah, you alluded to the 2 defensive tackle draft picks that are no longer here, and it's kind of, I want to rewind the clocks back a little bit. And since 2018, there's 25 players that we drafted since 2018. Mind you, those guys would be on the 5th-year option, like Josh Jacobs' class. 25 players that we drafted that are no longer on the team.
Yeah.
Which is why the Raiders have been in the situation. You could talk about head coaching, you could talk about the decisions, and all of that is true because of processes like the draft. And so you get this regime that comes in here and you're dealing with a team, like, let's be honest, missing out on 25 draft class players, that's huge. I don't care what organization you are, right? That's why the Raiders have to go out and get 27 free agents this offseason.
Yeah.
That's why they've got to fill holes and create depth with these 1 year.
Put the visual up? Not to cut you off?
Yeah.
I have it up.
Where's this at?
So you should see it.
Is it this one?
Yeah. All right. Let me clean that up real quick.
But no, yeah, when you have to add 27 free agent players, right? That shows that you've missed out on the draft. You have a sense of depth. You've had players walk. There's holes on the roster. And I don't care who you hire as head coach. This is a hard feat to overcome. And I'm judging based off of this draft class. Every single draft pick has made the roster. They've They've contributed in preseason, which is pretty evident. So yeah, we can kind of take a look at this here real quick. But all the free agent additions.
So starting with, so pretty much just a nice little breakdown here of how the Raiders current roster is made up of. And so far it's 21 drafted players by the Raiders overall, not just by this regime, but also previous regimes.
Yep.
And you can see a good amount of those players. And I'm going to skim through this.
That gives you a ratio, though. We've
Mhm.
lost 25 and we have 21.
Yeah.
It's not a good balance.
Yeah. And then through trade, obviously we know Devontae Adams was gotten through trade. Justin Herron last year in the beginning of the season, we tried to trade for him from the Patriots. And 27 acquired through free agency. And this is what you were talking about earlier, about how this roster is pretty much made of sign. And that's not, I don't know if that's a really a good number of players, but they're in transition right now. They're building this team. They're getting rid of players that were from the previous regime, and they're trying to get in their own guys. And it's not going to happen all in one offseason, and that's why you have 27 players that were signed through free agency.
But here's what I want to echo. Based off of what you said about how you think that we're on the right track, and I want to agree with you. I think, despite of what you want to say, feelings about the head coach, we can get into that on another day. But Champ Kelly, Dave Ziegler, these are guys who are bought into building a roster the right way, I think, and they're willing to exercise every single avenue in doing so, whether it be aggressive in trades to get a guy like a Devontae Adams. Shows he's willing to go out there and give up capital for a star player if needed. He's willing to go out there and pay money in free agency, extend players that are in the franchise. Maxx Crosby, at the time it was Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, Derek Carr. He gave extensions to players that he felt deserved it within the organization without having to go outside of the building. So moving forward with his draft philosophy, I know it didn't work out with those players and they've moved on from that. But in his philosophy, if he is here for, 4 or 5 years and we can see this rookie class get up to their contracts, how is he going to handle that? Is he going to keep that same philosophy of keeping our talent in-house? Is he going to keep Maxx Crosby at the end of his deal? I think this team, if I could sum up one word this offseason in 2023, it's been resilient. The national media has completely tried to run the Raiders' name into the mud. And for right reasons, right? You get Jimmy G, who had health issues. He fails his physical. Oh, he's not going to be ready. Oh, Josh Jacobs is involved in a holdout. Is he going to play football for the Las Vegas Raiders? Tyree Wilson, your draft pick, 7th overall. He's not healthy. Is he going to make it week 1? Time after time, the Raiders have proven Jimmy G got healthy. He passes his physical. He even gets time in the preseason game. Josh Jacobs ends his holdout, signs a $12 million deal, comes back to the team, brings a new energy to the offense yet again, adding another sense of like something's different. Tyree Wilson gets cleared, gets preseason action, and flashed bits and pieces of why you went out and drafted him 7th overall.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this team has, regardless of the noise outside of the building, this team has focused on getting healthy and getting better. And that's one thing I'm going to carry into this season, is I think we have a resilient group. Regardless of, you can give them a win total, you can project that all you want. I think one characteristic that we're going to see, and you can kind of chime back if you feel the same way, but I think we're going to have a resilient team this season.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I want to correct the earlier statement that there was no undrafted free agents on the roster. Obviously, I was wrong with that. AJ Cole, Andre James, and Luke Masterson and Isaiah Polamau, obviously who just made the team, are the only undrafted free agents on the roster. I think I was alluding to just pretty much that
last year.
Yeah, this last year.
Yeah, this last draft.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, hey, look, I'm kind of wait and see with the season. I'm waiting to see with the season. I have some thoughts on how it can work out. It can go either way. But hey, last year I went into it with a lot high expectations based off the previous year, the additions, the coaching staff. This year, it's like, okay, I like how they kind of steered away. They kind of went a different direction, brought in some players they like, and some of the players that they drafted, even the players where I was kind of questioning, look good, like an Aiden O'Connell. You know what I mean? Tyree Wilson looks like he might be the real deal, with a little bit more coaching and more snaps, and him just getting back to his normal self after missing a lot of football since last year, and he looks like he's a guy that, man, that's going to be our third or fourth pass rusher. Woo.
Yeah,
man. And you got in front of him, you got Maxx Crosby and Chandler Jones. Come on. So there's a lot to like. There's a lot to be excited about. But yeah, I'm not going to say that the Raiders are in my opinion right now to say that they're in the vision right now for the Raiders is bad. I think that they're trending in the right direction. They're trending in the right direction.
And I would say that there's an identity being created. Like for the first time in a while, it's not just throwing something at the board, throwing players from here and there and just trying to make it work.
Yeah.
There's a vision for what we're going to be. We're going to be a power gap football team. We're going to run the football downhill on you.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to create open spaces for our wide receivers, and defensively, we're going to pin our ears back, get after the passer, and do our best to create turnovers.
Yeah.
You keep the game simple, you keep the game fun, and that's where you find success. And it looks like that's the trajectory of the Raiders. So what that looks like in 2023, we're about to find out. So the season is here and it's quickly approaching, and I'm excited about it. But hey, any closing segments?
Nah, man, we gotta make sure and remind everybody, man, and make sure to hit that like button. Very much appreciate the algorithm is very real. We appreciate your support. So, hey, supporting us is hitting that like button. And obviously, if we can't get to your chat or comments, leave a comment. We read all the comments after the video. So just make sure to leave a comment. I'm sure Ray's gonna probably leave a good question. Just make sure to pin it, Ray, too. And yeah, man, any thoughts on the season? What do you think about the team? Anything that you had, if you disagreed with us, leave a comment down below, and also hit that notification bell. It's very important because sometimes we get people hitting us up like, "Hey, we forgot you went live. Oh, I missed your live." Don't worry about it. Just hit that notification bell, and you'll get an automatic notification sent to you to let you know that we're going live or we have some new content coming up. And yeah, man, I'm excited for the season, man. It's like two weeks away and counting. Man, it's September. Well, actually, less than 2 weeks.
No, we're like 9 days away, 10 days away.
Man, oh my God, it's
so you guys make sure that you're subscribed to Real Raider Ray. Make sure you're subscribed to Pharaoh NFL because next week is on Pharaoh's channel, and we're gonna be kicking off the season preview between the Denver Broncos, the Las Vegas Raiders, the first one of the season. You're not gonna want to miss it. You're gonna want to tune into the live, interact with all of Raider Nation. So yeah, hit that bell notification.
Is it gonna be next week? I think it's probably gonna be the following week, not next week, but the following weekend, right? September 10th. So
yeah. You're right. You're right.
So next we'll have a show next week. Don't worry about it. But obviously we're getting ready for the season. So our schedule is going to change. I know we were doing our weekly shows, gearing up for the season, but I think we're going to get back to our normal schedule. But yeah, we're going to be doing a season preview soon. Yeah, man, we're excited for the season, man. And just make sure to leave a comment, like the video, hit the notification bell, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed. And yeah, next time we go live, it's going to be on my channel.
Perfect. All right, man. Close them out the right way.
Just win, baby.